If you're ready for freedom from the grind, then passive income from real estate investing is the best way to get you there. If you don't know where to start or what to do next, then the Rent Roll Radio Show is the best place to get you there. Join us while we discuss the best practices, strategies, and mindset you'll need and give you actionable content to get you from where you are to where you want to be. Hey, Rent Roll Radio listeners, welcome back to the show. As always, I'm your host, Sterling Chapman. Today, we are joined by Satch Bernhardt, Bernhardt with the T. Satch, thank you so much for joining the show and welcome.
Hey, Sterling, thank you for having me.
So we actually recently partnered on a project where we both worked on a really big project together with Elevate, and that's how we met, was when we were touring the property in Houston a few weeks ago. So I also learned a few other things about your past as a pilot and your a wholesaling business that you have and what you're doing to help pilots create financial independence. So I want to dive into all of that because I think it's all super interesting. Can you kick us off with your backstory, kind of what you were doing before, what changed, and then how you got to what you're doing today?
Yeah, for sure. So my story, I started flying for the airlines when I was 21. I knew I always wanted to be a pilot. And back in 2018, I had already been flying for about 5 years and I wanted some extra income. So I started finding ways to make extra money. I stumbled upon wholesaling and real estate. We can talk a little bit more later on what exactly wholesaling is for the people that may not know. Or you want to explain it?
No, we can circle back to that. But my initial question is, do pilots not make a lot of money? I assume pilots made a ton of money.
Yeah, so good question. You start off, well, now is interestingly enough, they raised the first year pay. If you start at the originals, you start off like no less than $100,000 a year, like brand new pilot, first officer, which is like the co-pilot, right? Mm-hmm. Back when I started my first year as an airline pilot, I made $25,000. This is back in 2013, and so it was super low. So 4 years went by, and the increments are not really that drastic back at the original level back then. So that's why I was looking for other sources of income. And so in 2018, I started my wholesaling and flipping business. I started doing well, more than what I was making at the airlines. It wasn't enough for me to like just say, I'm going to quit the airlines, but I knew I was doing pretty good. So 2020 comes around and the pandemic happens. So my airline shuts down, right? And keep in mind, this is our airline at the regional level. We were like one of the best ones. We were the ones that had the longest history of being around and surviving all of the downturns that had ever happened in the aviation industry. So we were all sure that nothing was going to happen to us, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the pandemic comes, dude, and we went out of business. And luckily, all I did was just like, okay, I'm just going to go all in into my real estate business and really make this work. So it was kind of like a burn the boats type situation. It really took off and I started making really good money. But what I did notice was that, and I'm going to go a little bit into the mission that I have in real estate now, which was what I noticed back then was a lot of my peers that were at the airlines, they were struggling because they not only got furloughed from the airline, but also nobody else was hiring because of the same reason that we got shut down, right? So all of these guys were literally on the streets without a job, and they struggled for a long time until they got hired somewhere else. So that's when I realized that this is not the first time that has ever happened to the aviation industry. It happened in 9/11, it happened in 2008, it happened in the pandemic, and I'm sure it's going to happen again, So I figure if I can find a way to help pilots to be financially secure, whenever next event happens, they're going to be set. So I just wanted to throw that in there at the end. That's my mission with real estate, how I was able to turn something around from really going pretty bad to hopefully I can help as many people as I can in the aviation industry.
Awesome. So where do you live now?
In Orlando.
In Orlando. And where are you from?
Mexico.
Okay. And were you born in Orlando or you were born in Mexico?
No, born in Mexico.
And when did you move to Orlando?
in 2010. I finished high school and I
And
came
you went
straight to.
straight into aviation school. So
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know the first thing about aviation school. So is it like a 3-year program?
No, you can do it two ways. There's colleges that offer aviation combined with a degree. So it's like a 4-year degree. And while you're getting your degree, you're doing flying on the side. Or you can literally just go to a flight school and learn how to fly. And it took me like a year to get all my licenses.
Awesome.
Now you cannot fly for an airline just by getting your licenses. You need to get hours. The most common route, and which is what I did, was I became a flight instructor. Strangely enough, you can be a brand new guy with a license and you can start teaching people how to fly.
Sure.
So that's a typical route. So I did that for about 2 years and I got my 1,500 hours and then I went to the airlines.
And so you don't fly at all anymore?
No, only for fun. Every once in a while I'll go for fun, but yeah.
Awesome. So let's dive into the wholesaling and flipping business. So first of all, how did you hear about that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, and I know what you mean because
I didn't even know that was a thing until I was like 30. So like, where did you stumble upon like the non-traditional education that led you down that path?
Yeah, it was interesting. My wife was a realtor at the time. She hated being a realtor, driving people around, and I wanted to. While I was trying to figure out what I can do to make some extra income while I was flying, I had always been drawn to real estate. So I said, you know what, I can probably do something in real estate. But after seeing my wife driving people around, looking at houses, I said, hey, I don't want to.
You don't want to be on that side of the table anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
And so I was talking to the guy that owned the brokerage where she worked, and I was telling him this, and he says, you know what? I said, I don't want to get my license. Is there anything else I can do in real estate? And he says, you know, I heard about this wholesaling thing. He says, I have a book here, read it and see if it's something you like, you know? And so I just took that book and I read it front to back, and it was super basic on like explaining what wholesaling is.
What was the book?
It was some weird title, like The Goddess of Wholesaling, something like that.
Man,
I don't even
it's a
remember.
pivotal point. You should have that on the shelf next to the Schwartzman book.
I know, yeah. I should bring it up. I probably have it somewhere in there. It was super, super basic, very outdated. I mean, like the instruction that this book gave was like put bandit signs, you know, and stuff like that. So, yeah. So that was the turning point.
So how did you ultimately get started? Like what direct to seller marketing techniques did you find that worked?
Yeah, good question. And just for the audience that may not know what wholesaling is, right? Wholesaling is we essentially get contracts on properties and we sell our right to purchase that property. That's the thing that we possess that we can sell, right? We don't sell properties, we sell contracts. And we sell it to flippers that already know what we're doing, and we just make the spread between whatever we have the property contracted for versus what they're willing to pay for their contract. So dude, the techniques that like the direct to seller marketing that I was doing. First, I tried every single thing in the book, and I did everything wrong that you can think of. Just to give you an idea, I read in the book about the bandit signs. It did not say how many bandit signs you should put out, right? And so I just went about three.
Yeah,
about three, dude. About three bandit signs. I went to Staples. I grabbed my marker. I have a photo. I'll show it to you at the end of the show. And I just put there I even put my personal cell phone and I put we buy houses cash. Put my personal cell phone. I went to the busiest corner in the city where I was living at the moment, and I just put the three bandit signs on each corner.
Same corner.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Not only did you only have three signs, but you only had one intersection.
Yeah. And I waited, and nothing happened, right? And I did the same thing for like maybe 2 weeks. Like I'll just go, and not every day, but like it's always sporadic. So like my efforts, what I discovered from doing different things, very sporadic, was that you don't really become successful until you pick one strategy. Everything works. By the way, I did my first deal from Bandit Signs once. I was talking to another guy that I found out he was also wholesaling, and I explained how frustrated I was because I was putting my 3 Bandit Signs and nobody was calling me. And he says, dude, you got to put 100 Bandit Signs. To me, that was seeming like crazy. I was like, dude, 100 going from 3 to 100. So I was so frustrated, and I said, screw it, I'm gonna do it. I went and bought 100 Bandit Signs, and I just went on a Friday night and blanket the entire city. Now, big disclaimer, don't do this. Right?
Did you get a call from City Hall?
It may be illegal wherever you are. Check the rules first. But dude, I did my first deal from that one time that I just went on a rampage and put 100 Bandit Signs. So awesome. That's when the light bulb went off, and I said, you know what? It's volume what gets things done, right? And so I kept putting Bandit Signs. I did a couple more deals through there, but it was illegal where I was. So I was getting all these calls from code enforcement all the time, just telling me that if they found me, they were going to come get me and find me and all these things. So I just obviously don't want to be going against the grain, right? So I said, okay, I got to figure out other ways. And I stumbled upon cold calling. And I figured that was probably the thing that I could scale the most, just because I could do it from my house and I could do it on the computer, and I can use the time to. I was essentially targeting people on my own time instead of like sending a direct mail campaign and waiting for them to call me. What if I was flying? Sure. So that just didn't work my schedule, but I could call people when I was off and get deals that way. So. I don't know if you want me to go fast forward to where we are now.
No, I'd love to hear the rest of the story. How did that, and full disclosure, as so often I do on these shows, is I for personal greedy reasons, want the answers. So we just recently decided we bought, we do apartment complexes and we do single family houses. And I've never done any direct to seller marketing. So every single family house I've ever bought, I bought from a wholesaler. And I did the math, and I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in wholesale fees over the last couple of years. And so I was like, and because I was just always too busy to do it. But now that I have employees, I'm like, all right, y'all guys, do it. Like, go find, go find the houses, go market directly to the sellers. And it's so funny that because my first employee, we tried to do it about a year ago, and he was just too busy with other things. But he did what you said. He went and bought 3 Bandit Signs and put them out, and the phone never rang. You know what I mean? So now I'm trying to get my second employee that I think might be a better fit for it to go in and do it. And it's like, every different YouTube video tells you to do a different way. Every training course tells you to do a different way. So we sent out these type of mailers. We sent out those type of mailers. We paid this company that's going to do some online Google ads and stuff and sell us, leads. So we've got the batch leads and the text message campaigns in queue to go out. So I'm curious, for somebody who's been successful in the space, what works so that I can hang up here and go tell my guy, hey, scratch that, throw away this, because Satch said this is going to work better.
Yeah. So I said everything works. As long as you do it for long periods of time and you do enough volume of whatever that one thing is, you'll be successful. What I find out that all these people on like YouTube channels and stuff, that they say go do it this way. Like, let's say you have 2 people talking about direct mail campaigns, and they're both talking about like 2 different strategies. I think both work as long as you do either one for long periods of time, right? But the thing that I know the most is cold calling, because we are 100% a cold calling only strategy. So
okay. And who's doing the cold call? I imagine it's not you anymore.
No. So we have a team of 18 cold callers now, and they're all from Nicaragua. We went through a lot of phases of this, and so I'm very happy to speak about this because we already made all the mistakes, so I'm going to give you
I'm trying to
what
I'm trying to
works.
skip them.
Yeah, you're gonna get to the shortcut here. We just scratched the Filipino. We try the Filipino. We don't like them. One, that they're working during the nighttime for them, right? So they're working whenever our daytime is the nighttime for them. So their performance is always not the best. Their lifestyle is not the best. And we had them for a while and I just didn't enjoy that synergy of work. So we started looking for Latin American VAs that can help in our company. We started hiring one by one just to see how it was. And dude, they were super, they're awesome. They are literally like having a US person just because there's almost no accent. They understand the jokes. They understand the culture.
Right.
Many of them sometimes even lived here in the States for a while. So
yeah, there's a weird like disconnect with the language with the Filipino. It's so weird because I've heard two different whereas the Latin communication is just so much closer that you get the jokes better and you get the nuances and stuff. I've heard two other people that had a Filipino based service and they were like, oh, well, certain people in America don't like these services because they're racist. I'm like, what are you talking about? It has nothing to do with racism. I just like you can't hold the proper conversation because of the communication. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that would be an excellent avenue. I would love to, offline connect with you if you have connections.
Yeah, for sure. And so then we went that route. So we started, obviously we don't do it. I don't do cold calling myself anymore. We started building the team out of cold callers. And we started off by first hiring those cold callers and I was still doing the acquisitions. And my partner, he was doing the dispositions. So as we were building the cold calling team, I was still looking up putting properties under contract and then he will be selling them. There's really no secret to it. A lot of people ask me like what list works. We literally just call everyone. We have, because of the volume that we have, right? So having 18 cold callers, we cannot be pulling out the foreclosure list and the tax delinquent list from the counties. Is not going to be enough data.
So where do you get the list? I mean, like are you literally just pulling out a Yellow Pages phone book and saying, all right, call everybody in it?
No. So let me give you a more nitty gritty systems and lists. So we use Ready Mode. It used to be called Send Call for a lot of people that already know about dialers. It used to be Send Call. Now it's Ready Mode. That's the dialer that they use. The lists, we use a company called PropStream.
Yep.
PropStream, you probably know PropStream. That's where we pull the list. Super basic. We have a very simple.
What inputs do you put into PropStream to generate the list?
Yeah, so we just do whether it's vacant, owner occupied, absentee, or any of those. We just do all of them, right? Regardless of whatever vacancy situation it is. The only filters that we filter out by is at least a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, no older than 1950. That's it. There's no other filters. We don't get fancy with any more filters. That's it.
So you're calling a bunch of people that may in no way have any type of distress situation.
Correct.
You're calling literally everybody on the street, regardless of like they recently got divorced or they're late on a credit card payment or early foreclosure. You just call, like you might call me and you might call my mom, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
My only advice there will be, depending on what stage you are, you will want to filter out by, you probably want to stay in the distress bucket of lists, right? So like go after the pre-foreclosure, go after the property vacants, go after the tax delinquent, liens, code violations, stay within all those, right? It's a little bit of work to figure out where to obtain each one of those lists. A lot of them come from like the county websites. A lot of them you can pull from PropStream, but not all of them. So it does take a lot more work to figure out where to obtain them. So when you have a smaller team, let's say it depends also on your area, right? 3 to 5 callers, you can probably still be okay pulling that data and have them call that. And it's obviously going to be more targeted because the percentage of people within those lists that have more motivation to sell is greater as opposed to just calling everyone, right? We got to a point where that was not enough for us. It was just not enough people within those lists. And you will be surprised at how many people are distressed that are just not quite on those lists yet.
Not showing symptoms. Mm-hmm. So, no, I hear you. So my other two questions, not to cut ahead, but what does the phone call look like? What is when they call, how does that go? And then you said you were running acquisitions. I imagine once they qualify them in some way, which I want you to tell me how they qualify them through the phone call and set an appointment, you will go in for the close. And what does that conversation look like? Like when you're in as the acquisitions guy and locking them up on contracts?
Yeah, for sure. So their screening for sellers is super basic. We don't want them making a decision. We made a mistake in the past where we wanted them to make a decision whether or not they thought that they were motivated. And we found out that there were some times where they missed a few people that they were just using smoke screens to not show that they had problems underneath their situation, right? So the only filter that callers use in our company is whether or not they would like to, essentially, are they raising their hand saying, yes, I would like an offer on my house. That's it, right? So it's super basic. Hey, the call goes something like, hey, Mr. Seller. No, let me take it back. Let's say I'm calling you, right? Mm-hmm. You pick up the phone. Hey, Sterling.
Yep.
Hey, this is Satch from Home Buyer Link. I'm calling you about your property on 123 Main Street. Just want to see if you'll consider selling it. You tell me yes.
For maybe the right price.
Maybe okay for the right price. Okay, excellent, man. Can you tell me a little bit about the condition of the property? And then it's just they ask for, we call them pillars. So it's condition, motivation, if they can, right?
How do you ask the motivation?
What got you interested in selling?
Okay.
Just something basic, nothing too intrusive. And if they get it, good. If not, we tell them just move forward to the next. The next question is the timeline. When would you like to sell the property by? And the last question is the price. If they can get a price from them, good. If not, then whatever. So those are the 4 pillars that they obtain information from and gather as much as they can. And they don't make any decisions whether or not you were a motivated seller or not. They just simply send it over. And the once it passes over, it actually goes next. So in our acquisitions team, we have follow-up specialists and we have acquisition specialists. So we have 2 follow-up specialists. What they're doing is simply, we have a big database now of leads, right? So they're simply working the database, trying to get people on the phone because people ghost you all the time. They don't pick up the phone, even though they already said they wanted to sell, right? So all they're doing is trying to ignite those conversations again and pass them off to our acquisition specialist. And on top of that, we have 3 acquisition specialists. So our acquisition specialists are the ones that those 3 guys are here in the US and they are closers, right? We screen them for people that are high caliber closers. And their conversation is a 2-step call. The first step is, we call it a process call. It's simply a call to find out whether or not, the only filter that they're doing on the process call is whether or not they're ready to make a decision. Hey, Sterling, if after we go through this call, if I answer all of your questions, aside from price, are you going to be ready to make a decision, or do you think you're not ready? And are you going to be ready in the next 3 to 6 months? If you tell me, hey, man, regardless of what we do today, I'm not going to sell for another 6 months. Okay. Then I will not continue that conversation with you. I don't want to spend my time talking to you if you're not going to be ready, right? So right. I'll figure out why is it that you're not ready to sell. If we can find out a solution to that, then I'll try to figure it out. Because you will be surprised how many people say, well, I don't want to sell it because we have a tenant in the property. Okay, well, maybe we can figure that out. Maybe we can figure out a way to cash for keys, or we take over the lease or something like that. But a lot of sellers don't know the
right.
solutions that we can offer them, right? So we figure that out. And if it's truly something that, oh, another 6 months because that's when I retire and that's when I will be selling the house. Okay, we'll talk then, right? Once you're ready to sell the property, then they go through that if you tell me, yes, I'm ready to sell the property, okay, excellent. We're just gonna talk about the condition of the property again. We talk about why is it that you want to sell the property, and we really go deep into that motivation on that call. We really try to figure out why is it that you want to sell the property. We figured out if there's any roadblocks that will prevent us from doing business. And then we set up the expectation for the next call, which is going to be our offer call. So we'll tell you, hey, man, I'm going to get with my team right now. We're going to put an offer together, and I'm going to call you in the next 2 to 3 hours with an offer. And so they get off that phone call. We have an underwriter on staff that is just all he's doing all day is just writing offers for our acquisition guys. And so they go get their offer. The acquisitions guy calls later, 3 hours later. And we like to build a little bit of suspense on our offer calls, right? So we start first explaining like, hey, we got the offer ready for you. But first, before I give it to you, I need to explain to you how the process is going to look like if we do business. If the offer is something you like and the process is something you like, will you be ready to tell me yes or no today? And if you tell me no, we always say this, right? Sterling, if you tell me no, that's perfectly fine. I don't care. I just want to know that for sure. You're going to tell me yes or no. You're not going to tell me I'm going to think about it. And we make super strong point that you tell me a yes or no at the end of the call. I don't want to hear. I want to think about it. And
good.
From there, we go through the process on how it looks like doing business with us, signing a contract, going over the contract transaction, et cetera, et cetera. And then it becomes Hollywood, baby. We drop the offer. We tell you, hey, Sterling, congrats. You probably were asking for like 250. Congrats. We got you the best offer. I'm so glad they finally approved me for an offer this week. I've been getting hammered by these underwriters in my team. They got me 110.
And how do they typically respond to that?
Dude, you get all sorts of responses from there. But that's it, man. That's from there. Obviously, we role play objections. Typically, that's where the most objections come from, right? Once you deliver the offer, they will tell you X, Y, Z as to why they can't accept that. And then it's their job to like overcome those objections.
That's awesome. And I'm serious. I'm going to connect with you offline with my marketing guy that we're kind of working on building this out. So I'd love to kind of connect on that if you don't mind.
No, yeah, for sure.
But I know that's not like what you're looking for in the future. I know you're looking towards big buildings, and I want to get to that. But my first question is why are you, I feel like you're skipping steps, right? Like, why are you going from a wholesaling career to a commercial real estate capital raising career? I feel like with that much access to that many discounted properties, why didn't you just flip a bunch yourself or buy a bunch of rental properties, burr them into rental properties?
I think it's maybe you have had a different experience than me. But this wholesaling business, I just feel like we have 31 employees, right? I feel like we're churning a lot to not get the equivalent, what it feels like will be the equivalent result out of the business. We're doing good, obviously, right? This is how I do my living. Just for the amount of effort that goes into it, I will expect a lot more results. And I think that's the primary driver for that. My partner and I got to a point where we decided that we are just going to make the business, we're not going to grow anymore. We're going to stay where we are and obviously grow linear at this point, right? Because obviously if you're not growing every year, then you're probably not doing something right. But we're not going to try to grow exponentially 200 or 300% every year. Just a 20% growth year over year is perfectly fine. And just stay where we are, keep the systems where they are, and leave it as a cash flow in business. We're going to hire an operations person. My partner and I don't really have any involvement in the business anymore, like an actual position anymore. We're just overseeing that nothing breaks. But that's it. We're eventually gonna go right.
I was watching a YouTube video, I think this morning or yesterday morning, and it was this guy I'm Facebook friends with, Gary something. I can't remember his last name, but turned out he's like Ryan Pineda's business coach. And so he was, you know who Ryan Pineda is?
Yep.
And so they were on this like YouTube interview, like, you know, like all the other ones, like this one, you know. And what they were talking about is the impending recession and like how to shift your business around that. And one of the main things they said was like, you know, pivot from flipping to wholesaling because it's a lot lower risk and it's a lot more scalable. So like when you're in a reset, you know, when you're going downhill, it happened to me. I bought a ton of houses to flip. And if I'd have sold them 6 months ago, they'd have been up here. But when I'm selling them now, they're going to be down here, you know, because it took me 6 months to rehab them and get them on the market versus if I was flipping contracts, you know what I mean? And I was turning them in 30 days, then I would have less exposure to the, you know, the drop. So I thought that was cool information.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the biggest struggle that my partner and I bang our heads against the wall is the little problems that all of these properties have. It's just when the wholesaler sells it to a person like you, the end buyer, we solved all of those issues for the seller and the transaction so that it will be a clean title and go through. And that's what gives the most headache and what makes this business the hardest. If sellers did not have all of these problems, which is obviously what makes them sell it at a discount, but because of all these problems is what makes it so hard. You have problems that sometimes we can't even solve. Tenants that don't want to get out just because they feel like they're entitled to staying in the property just because they want to, and this is America, you know. And then you have people that have open permits in their house. They did a conversion that was not supposed to happen, and now they have code violations, and we don't know where to even start to clean this up. And buyers are like, hey man, we don't want to touch it unless you guys fix it. So now we have to, you know, we already put up all of this money up front to like get these deals, and we get them under contract, and we have all these problems. And it's like, shit, dude, we better figure this out or not, because every single deal that we have under contract is already accounted for and has to make a profit, right? So we got to figure out all these little nuances that go along with each property. And just to give you a little bit more insight, so we spend about 65 to 70 grand every month on just expenses on the business. And so like every month is like a race to just break, like if we can break even, then after that, we're good, right?
Sure.
And so an average deal size is about 20 grand. So like as long as we can do 4 deals, that's like we're in the black, right? If we can close 4 deals a month, we're in the black, and anything after that, we're good. So every month is a race. So let's close 4 deals and then solve all these little problems. And then there was all of the properties that we contract about 20 properties a month, and we end up canceling 50% of them because of all these issues, because of all the issues the property have. If it wasn't because of all those issues, we'll probably close at 20, right? But
I'm just doing some math here. So you contract how many?
About 20 a month.
And you cancel half, so you got 10 on an average 20,000. So that's 200,000 in revenue on a business that operates off of 70,000 expenses. Sounds like it's going pretty well.
Yeah, I mean that's now. Yeah, some months we'll do 150, right? So 150 to 200. That's kind of like, I wish it was perfect, but you know, you go through the swings.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's great. I really appreciate you humoring me and scratching my itch and walking through your model. That has been very, very helpful. But step one, I'm just going to send this episode to my marketing guy before it even comes out and be like, here, listen to this and write this down.
Yeah.
But let's switch gears to kind of what you have been working on recently. You know, what we worked on together with Domains Landing, and that's what you're doing in the commercial real estate space.
Yeah. So my goal had always been to do multifamily. I think it was just a matter of you hear it often, right? If you play with thousands, you will earn thousands. If you play with millions, you will earn millions. Sure. And that's sort of what intrigued me to start in multifamily since the beginning. But I had these limiting beliefs that I thought I had to start with single family homes before I could even start with doing big deals in multifamily. Knowing what I know now, I would have started with multifamily, since back when that dude gave me that wholesaling book, I probably would have told him, no, dude, I'm just going to go to the multifamily, right? But it did not happen that way. And I just eventually discovered that I could just start doing multifamily. And I thought I had to do it all in multifamily until I started learning more and more and discovered that there's different players to every single deal and everybody sort of brings something to the table. And that's what allowed me to start sooner. And I started discovering and figuring out what I really wanted to bring to the table on multifamily deals. Having already done a few flips and dealt with the struggles of getting properties under contract and getting them to the finish line, I did not want to go and do the same thing again in multifamily, right? I wanted to do something different, something that was a little more exciting for me, that will take me, if we're going to keep this wholesaling business, I want to do something that is sort of in a different lane, that I know I can provide value and that I can be good at. And that's when I discovered that if you can raise capital, it's such a valuable skill in multifamily, because the operators are so busy operating the deal that they want capital raisers, right? They want partners that can bring equity to the deal and partner with them. So when I saw that and I saw the opportunity that I could bring to pilots, I said, you know what, I'm going to marry the two together and I'm going to go all in that direction.
Everybody I know who niches down like that on somebody and who they're going to help, right, is just they seem to blow it out of the water. You see it a lot with like ADI, AD, or active duty passive income, where they cater towards like military folks, or you catering towards like, you know, pilots, or somebody catering towards women, or somebody catering towards doctors. You know what I mean? Where they cater to where they create this inclusive environment of folks that like understand their particular situation. It just really helps with the community building. I don't have any like, you know, niche like that when it comes to me, but I've always been envious of, you know, what I've found is that with my capital raising is that a lot of the people that tend to feel comfortable investing with me are people that are close to real estate, and but like realtors, like brokers. You know, they own a real estate brokerage and they make a lot of money doing it. And you know, I love targeting them. I also have like other, you know, insurance agents and lenders and brokers there. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's awesome that you understand the struggle of the pilot. You understand, you know what I mean? A lot, and I'm sure a lot of people. I imagine aviation is something that a lot of people go into because they love it. It's like being a doctor, you know, like a lot of like, yeah, it'd be cool to have a financial safety net, but like it doesn't matter how much some doctors make. They're going to go and they're going to help little kids because they like helping little kids. You know what I mean? And I'm sure it's the same thing with pilots. Like you don't fly because, you know what I mean, because you need a paycheck, right? Like you fly because you love to fly. You know what I mean? I assume it, you know what I mean?
And no, you're exactly right. Most pilots are very passionate about flying. You know, that's their world. That's what they do. They go flying on their days off. So yeah, they're very passionate about it, but you're exactly right. And they go in it with the passion in mind first and not the money. And
I heard a story one time. I think it might have been like in Rich Dad Poor Dad, maybe. I think it might have been like Robert Kiyosaki telling the story, where he was like sitting next to a pilot, and he's like, oh, what do you do? He's like, oh, I'm a real estate investor. Like, oh, isn't that risky? He goes, I mean, not as risky from every source of my income coming from one company. Like American Airlines is the only person who gives you a check. I collect checks from 1,000 different people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And dude, I've had the conversation with many pilots. Like we'll be on a flight going somewhere, you know, and you know, sometimes like 2 hours just sitting there talking, and they will tell me, dude, if the airline shuts down, they say, or like if I can't get my medical renewed for whatever reason, right? Some disability happens. I don't know what else to do. Like this is the only thing I've known how to do for the last 20, 30 years. So they will legitimately be concerned, like, I don't know what will happen with me. You know, I don't have any other skills. I never really did anything else. So luckily I was young enough when all these conversations were happening in the cockpit when flying with all pilots that had been doing it for a long time. And it just got me thinking along those lines as well. I was like, wow, these guys are having these concerns, and that sort of started turning my gears thinking about those situations, right? So there's many reasons why it will fit pilots. Not only do they get to have a separate income stream, but they get to have it will be like the safety net, right? That the second income stream will be the safety net. But not only that, but they also you can pull back on flying as much, and you only fly whenever you like. Yeah. One of the best, I will say, privileges that I had when I had my real estate business and I was flying at the same time is that I could drop the trips if I didn't want to go fly. Because there's a lot of pilots that's all they do. The only way for them to earn more income is to pick up extra flying, right? Yeah. So there's always pilots willing to pick up more flying. So what I was doing, I started needing the income less and less every time. So I'll just post all my trips, and other pilots will pick them up, and I will end up having a whole month off. So my message to many pilots now is like, you hear them complain like, hey, I missed my kids' baseball game. I missed their soccer game or practice, or I missed Christmas, or, so it's like, dude, just if you start having that second income, just drop your trips, do whatever you want. Modify your schedule. So it just gives you such a freedom to do whatever you want. There's a running joke in the aviation industry that they say you're not a real airline pilot until you've been furloughed twice and divorced 3 times. So hopefully with doing this, you will not care. If you get furloughed from the airline, you will not care. And hopefully we'll avoid having that many divorces on pilots, because obviously they get divorced because they're gone all the time.
No, it's like that in a lot of industries. So I remember I started investing in real estate when we had a layoff, and I didn't get laid off, but I remember that like sinking pit in my stomach feeling for a month leading up to when they were announcing who was getting laid off. And I was like, well, I never want to go through that again. So I started as like a safety net. And then, fast forward 2 years, I had all these rental properties and like I was okay. And the same thing happened again. And like, I just didn't care. And like all of my peers were like, I could tell by the look on their face. They had that like nauseous, like, holy shit, what am I going to do if I lose my job? I've got a mortgage. I've got car notes. I've got kids in private school. Like, well, what am I going to do? And I just like didn't care. And it was so night and day, my reaction to the exact same situation 2 years apart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's awesome. For the sake of time, I'm going to hop over to our radio round. So I just got 3 questions to ask you. The first one is, what's your favorite book?
Favorite book is going to be, we talked about it prior to the show. It's What It Takes. Yes. It's from Steven Schwarzman, the founder of Blackstone. It's so liberating to see someone to get to that success level and explain over and over in the book how much of a normal guy with no special talents he is. Yeah. It just tells you like, dude, I can do it too.
Yeah, I love it. It was great. Next one is, what's your favorite quote?
Favorite quote. I don't have a quote per se, but I just came back from this mastermind this past weekend. And one thing
what mastermind?
Is Race Masters with Hunter Thompson.
Oh, cool.
And one thing that kept being thrown around throughout the mastermind was money follows speed. And essentially speed was the X factor for anything that happens. Anything that you do is the faster you get it done, like looking for action. Don't look for perfection. Just do things, right? Just start taking action. It's so powerful. And not knowing, I feel like I've always acted like that. Like I'm not really good at having things perfect.
Done is better than perfect.
And I just jump in and do it.
Yeah. There's another book about the lean startup is about that concept. It's like get to market, you know what I mean? Get to market and get feedback and then adjust as you go along. Because you can sit there and obsess and get stuck in analysis paralysis and never take action. I mean, for years, while somebody else haphazardly like screw this huge, portfolio, and they learned along the way. But at the end of the day, they got a huge portfolio and you never moved.
Yeah,
that's cool. I love it. What's your favorite thing to do when you're not working?
So I have a 10-month-old. So right now that's the fun thing to do, right? If I'm not working, I'm with him and just watch him do new things every day.
Be careful. Be careful. I had one of those and it turned into a 3-year-old. That's awesome. Yeah, I've got 2 boys. I got 3 and 18 months, and they're a handful.
So, yeah. Oh, I can imagine. I don't know if I can handle another one, man.
Man, I thought back-to-back was going to be like an easy solution, and that was it.
That's what they say, right? Yeah, that's what they say. Back-to-back is the best. Dude, I used to have hair before he was born.
Yeah. So, how can our listeners get in touch with you, learn more about you, invest with you?
Yeah, for sure. I have actually something very special for anybody that is out there, whether this applies to your industry or not, and you're looking to get more of your freedom and your time back, especially if you're an airline pilot and you're looking to never miss another baseball practice or soccer practice from your kid and want to avoid getting divorced. Hop over to my website and grab a free ebook. I explain everything there on how to accomplish that. Is bernhardtcapital.net/ebook.
Bernhard with a T.
Bernhard with a T.
I clarify because when we talked about this when we were together, I'm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and we have a Bernhard Capital. The guy who owned the Shaw Group, which was a big Fortune 500 company down here that my whole family worked for. So I always make sure you know the T, because if you go to Bernhard Capital without a T, it's a completely different guy, completely different company.
Yeah. Don't make sure that it's from Orlando, not Louisiana, if you want to come with me.
Satch, thank you so much for joining us, man. I really enjoyed it. I learned a ton. I'm super excited to take everything I learned back to the team. And I'm sure that our listeners that are like looking for a way to get in, whether they're like starting from nothing and want to build a wholesaling business, or they're a busy professional that wants to invest passively to kind of create that safety net you talked about and that side income. Either way, I think our listeners are going to get a ton out of it. So thanks so much. And I'm glad we had a chance to meet. I'm glad we had a chance to do this, and I look forward to keeping up with you on your journey.
Yeah, thank you, Sterling. I appreciate you having me on.
This episode was brought to you by Crestworth Capital. If you're a busy professional and ready to make passive income from real estate investing, then go to crestworthcapital.com, where you'll be able to download a free copy of our ebook to help you get started today. Until next week, happy investing.